بسم الله إن الحمد لله نحمد ونستعين ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهدي الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأن محمدا عبده ورسوله قال الله تعالى إن هذا القرآن يهدي للتي هي أقوم ويبشر المؤمنين الذين يعملون الصالحات أن لهم أجرا كثيرا رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني ويفقهوا قولي أما بعد. Brother, if there are unpleasant memories associated with our relationship with someone, right? And that person criticizes us, a flare-up of old feeling can overcome us, right? You know, like we are already had some experience and somebody criticized. So our psychology is that it really provoke us. That flare comes in us to respond, to say something, right? So criticism, especially negative criticism, can feel very personal. You know, like among any other thing, it feels like, you know, this is something related to me. Today my topic is criticism, right? Because like many times we come across this, and since most of the time one of the purpose of the deen is to improve our akhlaq, and this is somewhere we lose control on ourselves, right? So it's very important topic. We'll try to outline what it is and how to criticize and handle it positively so we can learn and improve our situation and subsequently our relationship with others as well, right? So knowing what criticism, tanqeed, is, right? Generally, it is perceived as a negative expression about something and someone, right? Negative. Where in reality, it is a positive behavior, right? It's a positive behavior. We generally not been trained to it, so we normally take it as what? Negative thing, right? Let me explain, you know, a little bit from a general perspective. So when we are young, right, and it's a, you know, like time of like when we are actually learning things. So what we see, we go to elders, right, and they actually tell us something. We go to the masjid, they tell us something. We go to friends or anybody, they tell us something. I mean, by and large, as soon as you approach somebody and they find out that you are a young man, they try to help you with some kind of knowledge, right? Now, as soon as we are old enough to evaluate this knowledge, we start sorting out, right? This is good for the family, this is good for the office, this is good for my business, this is how I should behave in the masjid, kind of thing. You start sorting out this information by analyzing what is good or bad for me, right? So this exercise of sorting out and analyzing the already conceived knowledge is criticism, right? So that audit process of like what is good for me or not is so this is what the positivity is, and this criticism about things related to us at that point, right? Like, you know, what we really want to know, what is good and bad for us. Criticism is a process that make us learn new things and let us choose the beneficial knowledge and take it further. Because once we know that this is good for me, we add on top of it. And when we see something, this is not good for me, we cut it out from our life. One of the very profound prophetic dua is, "Oh Allah, make us understand the haqq and accept it, and make us understand or recognize the batil and avoid it. So that's what the process, internal process we are going through. The action and behavior we actually dislike is not called tanqeed, it's called tanqis. That is taking out the nuqs or the problems or the objection in someone or some behavior or something, right? So if you notice, tanqeed is an internal process, whereas tanqeed is an external process. Let me explain what it is. Like, you know, I give you the example when we are young, people start telling us things. But if you kind of recall, as soon as they tell you this is good, we also been told that this is not good, right? I mean, in our practices, especially the religious practices, it's very evident any group who's following a certain methodology, generally to qualify and validate their methodology, that says, oh, the other person or the things are deviation or something like that in that scope. So understanding this tanqis is negative criticism, right? Especially this is negative criticism. So when we have been when it comes to our knowledge, we use different sets. This, you know, like the same knowledge, but we use different sets of rule for internal information and for the external information. And this is the most important thing in this talk, if you could notice and learn out of it. What is missing is that tarbiyah to actually sort these things out, identify and sort out what is right and what is wrong. When we do it on ourselves, amongst ourselves, we are very patient and very positive about it. But when it comes to the other people or other things which is external, we actually use a rejective methodology, like, you know, don't talk about it or put a name or tag or something and just push that idea. So the problem with this behavior is tanqeed makes us choose the things or move ahead, you know, like with the knowledge. Whereas tanqis are the things which block the way of learning for something or some action, right? So identifying that this is negative and this is positive, whether it is internal or external, the task is to use the same merit. Try to get what are the facts, right? What are the facts about this knowledge or this behavior? What are the reasons why it is being actually pronounced or acted upon? Like if somebody is doing a tanqeed or criticizing, what is his mindset? Where is he coming from? Right? Knowing the actual facts is the most important thing for both. And since we never been told about the tanqis, that we need to behave in that same positive way, so what generally observed is as soon as something which is external and being told that this is not right, we are very ferocious and very pushy about it to declare it like outside of, you know, like without realizing that there could be a reason behind it. Anyway, now that we know the main difference between positive and negative criticism, we'll see what are the best ways to criticize and handle criticism. We will call these etiquettes of criticism, right? So the number one is always start when we are actually trying to criticize somebody's work or action. Always start by introducing the positive traits of the individual and praise him. That's number one. And why is that? Because, you know, starting with this way, it builds a trust that that person will think like he is going to help me instead of like, you know, push me out or, you know, like hurt me or do something. Second etiquette is criticism should be based on the facts and reasons, right? Avoid hearsay, like, I heard from this or that person was talking about, avoid this. And rumors, like, a collective perspective going on, unless we know that this is valid, avoid that information to use it as a base to criticize somebody, right? And the reason is receiver need to realize, because like when you are actually criticizing, receiver needs to realize that these are true facts he's talking about. It's not man-made or, like he says, she says, or, like a ongoing talk, but he should realize that these are true facts and take time to think over this criticism so that he could actually correct his path, right? So this is very important to criticize based on fact. Number 3 is talk to the individual directly in an affectionate, in a loving way. I mean, if you really, criticism is based on correction, if you are doing it in a positive way, so instead of talking to somebody and he's taking it to the person, or talking in a public and he's hearing from different sources, talk to the person directly so that he understand, hey, this is really, he's talking to me. He is concerned about me. Because what happened is when, like these information reach to the person in an indirect way, it could hurt him, right? It could, like, he's my dear friend, but he's like talking about me like this in public. It could be hurtful. Also, when the information reach to the receiver, it could actually create bad feelings about you. So another way etiquette to practice in criticizing is don't criticize spontaneously. Like when person make a mistake right there and then, like this is people think that they are very good, they could actually correct people, whereas this is against the etiquette and it actually creates a reaction in the person, right? And when person is not using his head but emotions, it's very unlikely that he will actually pay heed, or learn from this. So it's very important that we should not correct people right there and then, but wait for the time to correct it, especially for your own family members, the young ones. If you correct them right there, they will probably, it will defeat the purpose of correcting them. Either they will zone it out, or don't listen to us. And that is also another thing which we observe with this family matter, which is one of the etiquettes of criticism, is don't repeatedly criticize. Don't. If it is a repetitive action or instruction, it probably will fail, because anytime you correct somebody, you need to give him time to actually analyze and include it in his in the routine. That individual needs to include it. But if that repetition is going, it actually defeats the purpose. It's like, it's I cannot improve, or I don't need to improve. Maybe he has its own ideas. So see, once we criticize, see what is the effect. Give time and see. If you don't see the result, then talk to them, like going back to another reason, and talk to them and try to find out what is their reason. Brother, inshallah, if we try understand the positivity in the criticism, it definitely benefit us in the long run. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروا إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Brother, Prophet life is full of lesson on how to handle the criticism. I mean, throughout of his life, if we read the Sirah, there are so harsh criticism people directed towards him, so harsh, right? Also, we could learn how to attend rather harsh and humiliating behaviors and situation he was put into it. I mean, there is unparalleled example, like, the way prophets being tried, and, the community actually attacked them. So I actually chose one of the examples to highlight the way a situation actually can be perceived by individuals, and how Rasulullah actually teaches with this vivid example. If you remember the story of Hunain, Battle of Hunain, which is the last battle which cleans up all these mushrikeen, and besides the Quraysh after Fatah Mecca, the Battle of Hunain was the decisive one. It's known in our history as the decisive battle, where it actually been cleaned up. And Muslims has a big, huge victory, and they were like wealth of war booty, right? And at that time, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, with his generosity, extend his generosity. It's been known that whatever people were asking, he was giving it to them. Like the whole valley full of sheep, somebody asked him, he said, take it away. Now, their Ansar was part of the Jamaat of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When he saw this kind of unparalleled generosity from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they feel a kind of resentment that he is giving away to his own people the way he never give it to anybody else, right? And this thing, little by little, caught up and reached to the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's ears, right? And he actually called their leader, Sa'ad bin Ubadah, and asked them, this is what I'm hearing. Is it true? And he's politely answering, oh Rasulullah, these are my people. And he says specifically, what do you think? He says, I am from my people. So that when Rasulullah realized that this is a serious situation, he pulled them, called all the Ansar there. And he actually asked them, is this bother you? Like I am giving these sheep and camels to the Meccans, and they kind of acknowledge it. And with this situation, he actually present one conclusive remarks, which is like, same situation, how people is looking, what are the facts, which I was actually talking about in the first khutbah. And he says to them, after knowing their situation, is it not true that you worship idols and Allah give you guidance through me? And he says, yes, Ya Rasulullah. They acknowledge. And then Rasulullah asked again, it is not true that you were rival by civil discord, and Allah has united you through me? Like you were fighting among yourself, and Allah's guidance through me make you brothers? This is Ya Rasulullah. Naam. Yes. And then he asked, it is not true that you were poor and Allah made you rich through me? And this is Ya Rasulullah. I mean, look at the resentment in their heart, which stopped them looking the actual facts, truth. So Allah's Prophet highlighted them in there. But here he didn't stop. Now he goes to their level or their mindset, and then he says to them, like, no, it's not only, but you should ask me like this. And he says to them, you came to us, ask me like this. You came to us in Medina, rejected as an imposter, which has been said by the mushrikeen. And we accommodated you, and then he extended, and then say, you came as a helpless fugitive, and we assisted you. And then he added, an outcast, and we give you the asylum. Like he was addressing among those weak who could actually think that way too, and they had the reason for it. And he says, and we scolded you. You were So let's use, you came with a question and we actually help you. And when he says all that, they actually were like really emotional. So he did not leave them like there, but he actually now consoled them by saying words like this, that I have given them the reason, I have given them extensively because I want to incline their hearts towards Islam with these large presents. Whereas you are steadfast on your faith. I don't need to do that. And then he added to them and telling them, like, I will never leave you alone. If the whole world goes in one direction and the Ansar will go in the other, I will go where the Ansar will go. And it's been described that when Rasulullah actually says this, they cry so hard that they never cried before. This is how he used the situation to win their heart over, right? So that's my point, is which I was actually trying to highlight with both these examples, that we need to know the situation and the lesson in it to actually evaluate the actual core argument, the fact why somebody says something, and then based on this, if he's wrong, correct it. If it is a good thing to us, accept it and improve upon it. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us understand the hikmah of dealing things with ikhlaq and make us live this life accordingly. قال الله تعالى إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد وأصحابه إلى يوم الدين ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. Oh Allah, make us understand the Quran better and better. Oh Allah, give us understanding to our own behavior and mistakes and guide us to correct it. Oh Allah, give us guidance in this life and let us to enter your paradise. Ameen. Say Ameen, Ya Rabbil Alameen. Oh Allah, help Muslimin everywhere in the world. Oh Allah, save us all from coronavirus calamity and return us to our regular life, Ya Allah. Oh Allah, cure the sick among us and forgive the loved one departed from us. Oh Allah, make us obedient to you and guide us through your prophets sallallahu alaihi wasallam sunnah. يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك اللهم اغفر للمسلمين والمسلمات والمؤمنين والمسلمات الأحياء منهم والأموات إنك سميع قريب مجيب الدعوات ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا وأخطأنا ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته إلى الذين من قبلنا ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. عباد الله إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر وبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون فاذكروا الله العظيم يذكركم واشكروه على نعمه يزدكم ولذكر الله أكبر وأقيموا الصلاة.
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد